What's good, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I have a great video for y'all today talking about hyper rares, secret rares, rainbow rares, all the same thing, very confusing, all of the above. Pokemon did recently confirm that they were going to stop printing these cards, and we are going to look at the market, see what they're doing, because there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of talk out there, and I think some people are hyping it up a little bit too much and having people FOMO in to buying these cards. Now, a lot of people were not fans of the rainbow rares. I don't know if it's because the way it looks, or maybe because there was like 2 million, bazillion, quadrillion cards in each set that were rainbow, and people were getting really tired of them. But there are some bangers. There's some really nice ones. There are some with decently low pops, and we're going to look at some of that stuff today and kind of compare it. So for the most part, we're going to refer to them as rainbow rares. They're still secret rares, hyper rares, all of the above, but I don't want to confuse you, right? It gets very confusing. And for example, look at TCG Player right now. If you look up secret rares, you're going to see a combination of different cards. For example, this Umbreon is also a secret rare. But when you look at this Charizard, which is the first card we're going to talk about today, is a secret rare as well, but it's a rainbow / hyper rare. So Charizard GX secret rare from Burning Shadows. And this is what I want to look at. The first card, of course, is going to be expensive because we're pretty much looking at high to low, and that's what we want to look at. But what you have to pay attention to is the variation in pricing, because this $130 right here is not for a near mint card. This is for a damaged holofoil. And a card like this that's very desirable, you have a lot of them selling, but as you can see, they are lightly played holofoil. So these are not very nice conditioned cards. These are lightly played. If you come down to the near mint holofoil, you don't see a lot of them on here. There's not a lot. And the ones that are near mint are selling right around $400 for this Charizard. And this, to me, is a beautiful and stunning card. This is a hyper rare, a rainbow that I would buy. And it looks really nice. Now, we are going to look at a 3-month chart. And you can see it did come down, shoot up, and pretty much stabilize all the way over here in February. But what we really want to look at is the 1-month chart. And the reason why I say that, because everyone started figuring out and talking about it recently, that rainbow rares were going to be discontinued. So that's why it's important, because right here in the last month, you can see that, right? You see people pushing this information out, all the influencers, and saying, hey, buy all these cards, buy everything right now. And then the card shoots up. Not a whole bunch. We're talking about 25 bucks-ish right here, but it did drop back down, and now the card is starting to stabilize. So as the news is kind of carrying over and people are focusing on other things, they're focused on Crown Zenith and Scarlet and Violet and stuff coming out like that, the cards are starting to stabilize, because you have to spend your money on something different, right? We can't just spread our money across everything we want, or we would be broke forever. So that is really hard to do. As new sets start to come out, people want to sparse their money out and spend it on different things. And we're not going to get into it right now, but it also goes for stuff like Lorcana, right? Different TCGs come out. It is going to take a bite of the market, the Pokemon market share, because right, we have to spend money on other stuff, and then we have to cut over here. We have to cut here to spend here. So that's pretty much the gist of it. But yeah, this card is pretty expensive. We're looking at right around $421 if you want a near mint copy. And of course, the Fire Dragon is pretty much at the top of the charts. As we scroll down to the second one right here is another Charizard from Champion's Path, another secret rare right here. 57 listings, as low as $153. A near mint will run you roughly $214. So this is one of your next best options. This card is about half the price of the Charizard GX. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the 1-month chart as well. We do see this card constantly trending up. This card has not stabilized yet, and it went all the way from about 178 bucks all the way up to about 200. So right now, the current asking price is $214.99 for Wasteland Gaming. And if you look at the recent sales, it's right around $170 to $204.99. So if you can find a deal, look for a deal. You might can snag it around 170. That would be a decent deal right there, but this card is still going up in value. So next card we are going to look at is not a Charizard, right? It is the Lugia GX, a really beautiful card from Lost Thunder. I was actually never able to pull this card, but a really nice card. And you can see this one also went up. So this one went up to about $150 And right now it is starting to come down to about 149 right here, but somebody's selling a moderately played one for 80 bucks. But the last month on this chart is very, very volatile. It looks like it's just going up, going down, and between every transition, it is starting to stabilize. But ultimately, this card has dropped down to about where it was mid-January, and it looks like it could be trying to stabilize once again right around 150 bucks. So the recent sales also show the same pricing, right? Between 119 to 150 bucks. So another really, really nice rainbow rare right here, the Lugia from Lost Thunder. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about two more on here. We're not going to run through all of these cards. There are tons and tons of them, but just talking about some of the pricing and what I think they're going to do for the future. So the next one we are going to look at is another one's favorite right here from Vivid Voltage, which is the Pikachu VMAX. Another really nice and stunning card that I wish I could have pulled, but this card is incredibly hard to pull. So a near mint holofoil right now is right around 180 bucks, and this card had a little bounce right here. So it went from 131 and it's starting to shoot up right now to about $138, and the current asking price at 180, and the current sale is right around $175. So this card is starting to go back up. Looking at the 1 month chart, it did dip back down right around mid-February right here, and currently where we're at right now, it looks like it's starting to stabilize just a little bit right around $138. So like I said, for all of these cards, if you can find a deal, look for a decent deal, right? And we're going to look at one more, but right before we get into that, one of the things I want to talk about is I've been hearing YouTubers compare these cards to certain cards like Gold Stars, right? If you don't know about the Gold Star era back in the day, very, very old cards, right, have a gold star up at the top. I'm not talking about the Greninja. That's not what I'm talking about. It is a modern gold star from the Celebration set, but it's not one of the original gold stars. And basically what I want to say is I don't think there's any comparison, right? I do not. I think that Pokemon at that era, right, was lowly printed, and that's because a lot of people wasn't really focused on Pokemon. Pokemon was really down and out. They didn't print the boxes as much as they could have back then because they didn't want to lose money, and people had kind of lost interest and didn't care about some of those gold stars back then. And you also have to factor in certain things like people actually playing with their cards back then. A lot of tournaments, people put them cards on their bikes, they put them in their pockets, they didn't really care about the condition of them. I mean, people just weren't hyper grading everything. Like, it was a lot different back then. The condition of these cards were really, really poor. And if you look at a lot of these cards today from the WotC era and the early era and all of that stuff, you're not going to find a lot of very good conditioned cards. Now, today, Pokemon is printing in excess. Now, I will say there is a huge fan base, right, especially from the beginning of Pokemon, and you have a lot of people still hopping in and hopping out and still playing Pokemon, but people also really take care of their cards, and Pokemon is printing a ton of these cards, and a lot of these population reports are just skyrocketing in comparison to numbers to what you've seen back then, what you've seen in the olden days. So you have to bear all that in mind. We really don't know what these cards are going to do in the future. I do think that they are going to grow, and the reason why I say that, Pokemon has 26 years of history, right? Pretty much 26 years almost. And the reason why that's important, because a lot of older people that were into Pokemon back when they were young, we care about the older cards, right? A lot of people are picking up like Neo Genesis and WotC era and stuff like that. But when you look at the modern cards today, something like Umbreon, which is just skyrocketing and going crazy and more expensive than a lot of these older cards, that's because there's fans of Pokemon today that are younger than the old ones that were here when Pokemon came out. And what that means is that later down the road, 10, 20 years down the road, these cards today, these modern cards, these rainbow rares, these full arts and all of this stuff, these beautiful cards are going to be nostalgic. This is what nostalgia is. These Gen 9 Pokemon are nostalgic to these kids and to these young adults right now later down the road. So that's what you have to bear in mind. So yes, I do think these cards will increase in value, but it's hard for me to really say that they're going to be comparable to gold stars. I really don't think so. I think that these cards were printed more than gold stars. I think that, you know, there's a lot more of these cards out there. And I think they're also being kept in better condition. A lot of people are putting them in special magnetic cases and you know, and top loaders and penny sleeves and their binders. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of stuff right now. So let me know what y'all think about that, right? Am I off? Do you really think that these cards are going to be comparable to Gold Stars? I would really like to know what y'all have to say on that. But what I am trying to say that I do think that these cards are going to grow in the future. I think that there's a lot of movement that these cards can do. Now, I do not think that every rainbow rare that you can find is going to go up in value. A lot of them will go down. Basically, what I do and what I revolve a lot of it around is cards that are heavy hitters, right? Flagship Pokemon. When you look at the top of this list, right, and this is for a lot of TCGs and a lot of the list, right? Of course, a lot of it can come down to playability, tournament sake, but you also want to pay attention to population reports, and you also want to look at the artwork. And one of the last things you want to look at is it a flagship Pokemon? So just for example, right, let's go ahead and look at this first page. What do we see here, right? We see Umbreon. Umbreon's a flagship Pokemon from Evolutions. It's the best one out there, and a lot of Umbreon cards are incredibly expensive. Charizard, don't even have to talk about it. Rayquaza, still don't have to talk about it, right? We already know this. We have Gengar, we have Sylveon, Leafeon, all of these evolutions. We have Lugia. Now we have this Dialga right here from Phantom Forces, a very rare card right here. But we have Pikachu, another Rayquaza. We have the Arceus. There's a lot of cards on here that you have these flagship Pokemon, these beautiful artworks, and people really, really desire these cards. And they're really awesome, right? They're really awesome. So the last thing I really want to do is just transition over to PSA for population reports. And we can go ahead and take a look at this. So let me go ahead and duplicate it, because what I want to do is kind of show everyone out there that don't understand how to look at the population reports and help you understand, right? So that way you can look at it. All right, so here we are. So if you look up psacard.com and you look up PSA population report, you will come to this screen. So the one card I am trying to look up is the first Charizard that we were looking at from Burning Shadows, the secret rare number 150 Charizard GX. That's what we are trying to look up today. So what you want to do is try to put up as much information as you can on this card. Now, PSA is good for auto-populating what you type in. So right here, you see a bunch of different Charizards. You do not want to do that. So what we're going to do is add GX. When we add GX, we still have a bunch of different cards. So now we're going to add number 150. That is the card number. So we have Charizard GX 150. Now, this is exactly what we are looking for. 2017 Pokemon Sun and Moon Burning Shadows. And to confirm, yes, right here. Burning Shadows, right? That's where it came from that set. So you want to click on it, and then once you click on it, you want to find Charizard. So we're going to scroll down, we're going to look for Charizard, and we're looking for card number 150. So we'll go ahead and go to page 2, because we know it's going to be down here. So here we go. Here's 150. Now you want to pay attention because you have Spanish, you have French, German. There's a lot of different ones on here, but we're looking for the English version, which is right here. The Charizard GX Full Art Secret number 150. And right here we see there's a total of 4,058 of them. So when you're looking at PSA 10s, there's a total of 793. So in the entire world, there are 793 PSA 10s for this card. That is not a lot, right? That's not a lot when you look at the whole world in comparison. Now, there's a lot of older cards out there that have really low pop reports that have like 20 or 30. So this is an incredibly desirable card. So you're going to have quite a bit out there. So there's 4,058, 793 10s. Now, the next thing I'm going to look at, and the last thing I'm going to look at, is we want to look up the Umbreon. So let's go ahead and then go back and let's look up the Umbreon. All right, so here we go. 2021 Pokemon Sword and Shield Evolving Skies. So we are looking for card number 215. All right, so here we go. We have the Full Art Umbreon VMAX Secret, and this is absolutely insane. So we have 5,896 total for this card. There's 4,695 10s alone of this Umbreon. Now, it's really hard to compare apples to apples. And the reason why I say that, because a lot of it still depends on how desirable this specific card is. is this card that much more desirable out there in the world than the Charizard? And it's really hard to say because the Umbreon, I mean, I see people out there who have 5, 10 copies of this one card. And eventually when they get tired of it, and a lot of these cards dump on the market, is the demand still going to keep up? Is it still going to be there? And this card is still getting graded daily. People are still buying Evolving Skies packs. Mind you, Evolving Skies, probably the best set, it was Sword and Shield, right? But still, this Umbreon was released in 2021. And we go back and look at the Charizard was released in 2017. So there's only 793 of this Charizard in existence in a PSA 10, comparable to 4,695 Umbreons. So if I were to look at both of them in comparison, and one of the top rainbow rares out there in existence from an older set and has way less PSA 10s in existence, I would probably go for the Charizard. And that's just my personal preference. Take it or leave it. Let me know what you think. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. I hope that you got something from this. Have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all later. Out.